He thought she was just another black woman, until she walked into court and brought down his entire department. The rain fell in sheets that night. Streetlights reflected off wet asphalt, creating shimmering pools that distorted everything. It was late, past midnight, the kind of darkness where shadows blurred together and faces became indistinguishable, except for hers. Special Agent Zora Michaels sat motionless in her parked sedan, 3 blocks from the abandoned warehouse. Her fingers tapped a silent rhythm against the steering wheel. No music played, nothing to distract her from the mission. She wasn't in uniform, just dark jeans, a black hoodie, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She didn't stand out, or so she thought. Then she saw the lights in her rearview mirror, red and blue flashing, gaining on her fast. Her stomach tightened, not from fear. She had faced far worse in Damascus and Karachi, but from frustration, a complication she didn't need tonight. She signaled and eased her vehicle to the curb. She put the car in park, took a slow breath, and kept both hands where they could be seen. She had been in the agency long enough to know. Sometimes it's better to blend in than stand out, to be underestimated, even by those with badges. A cruiser stopped behind her, its headlights flooding her car with harsh white light. The officer took his time getting out. When he finally approached, he moved like someone who enjoyed having power. Heavy footsteps splashing through puddles, one hand resting on his holster, the other holding a flashlight that swept across her face. She turned her head slightly, watching him through the side mirror. The name on his badge caught the light. Daniels. License and registration. No greeting, no explanation. His voice was flat, practiced, condescending. Zora met his eyes briefly in the mirror, then reached slowly for her glove compartment, pulling out the documents for her cover identity. Alicia Jackson, resident of Westlake. Administrative assistant. Nothing remarkable. Is there a problem, officer? She asked, her voice even measured. Daniels didn't answer right away. He took the papers from her hand, studied them longer than necessary. His flashlight beam moved from her face to the empty passenger seat, to the back seat of her car. There's been a homicide in the area, he said. Matching descriptions. She frowned. A homicide? What description exactly? Daniels finally looked at her directly, his eyes narrowing. Are you questioning police procedure? A beat of silence passed. Zora could feel the shift in the air, that quiet, unspoken moment where power met resistance and one side expected the other to cave. She'd seen it before, in interrogations, in hostile territories, in close-quarters combat where words became weapons. She knew better than to escalate, but she also knew her rights. I'm just asking, she replied, voice calm. What description am I matching? Step out of the car. Daniels cut her off like her words meant nothing. Zora exhaled slowly. She glanced toward the warehouse in the distance. Timing compromised. Mission at risk. She tapped her fingers against the steering wheel once, then reached for the door handle. Mind telling me why? She asked. Daniels tilted his head, smirking. Because I said so. She let that hang in the air for a second, then unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped out. The rain immediately soaked through her hoodie. She stood on the wet pavement, her posture relaxed but balanced, center of gravity low, ready. She wasn't looking for confrontation, but she wouldn't be intimidated either. Daniels took a step back, scanning her. She could feel him sizing her up, deciding how far he could push. Turn around. Hands on the hood. This time she hesitated. Based on what suspicion? Daniels took a step closer, his smirk disappearing. Are you resisting? Zora held her ground. No. I'm asking why I'm being detained. A flicker of something crossed his face. Annoyance, satisfaction, maybe both. Then, without warning, he reached for his radio. Dispatch, we have a non-compliant suspect. Matches the description from the Hudson homicide. Requesting backup. Her pulse quickened, but her expression remained calm. Officer, I need you to understand something, she said, her voice low but firm. You're making a serious mistake right now. Daniels didn't like that. His jaw tensed. You're under arrest, he snapped, reaching for her wrist. Zora moved before he could grab her, stepping back just enough to create distance. Under arrest for what? Daniels pulled out his handcuffs. For suspicion of homicide, and now resisting arrest. She felt her options narrowing. Her agency training kicked in: assess threats, calculate outcomes, weigh mission against exposure. She knew she had two choices: reveal her identity and compromise months of work, or play along and deal with the fallout later. She wasn't about to blow her cover. Not when she was this close. With slow, deliberate movements, she turned, placing her hands behind her back. The rain ran down her neck, cold against her skin. Daniels wasted no time, yanking her arms roughly, tightening the cuffs until they bit into her flesh before shoving her toward the patrol car. "You're making a grave mistake," she murmured. Daniels chuckled, pushing her head down as he guided her into the back seat. "Lady, we caught you 3 blocks from a murder scene, matching the description, running the same story as the other suspects. I know exactly what I'm doing." But he didn't, not even close. The hard plastic seat of the patrol car pressed against her back. Zora sat still, wrists burning from the too tight cuffs, her breath measured. The door slammed shut, sealing her in. Outside, Daniels strutted back to her car, shining his flashlight through the windows, searching for evidence that wasn't there. She glanced at the partition separating her from the front seat, calculating how long before her handler realized something had gone wrong. How many hours before the operation fell apart and 2 years of deep cover work collapsed. This wasn't part of the plan. But plans changed. Adaptation was survival. Morning light spilled through the high windows of the county courthouse. The room packed beyond capacity. Journalists, media, legal observers, and a row of stern-faced men and women in dark suits, their expressions unreadable. Zora sat at the defense table, no longer in her rain-soaked hoodie, but a crisp charcoal pantsuit. Her hair pulled back neatly, her posture straight, commanding. Beside her, not a public defender but Catherine Reynolds, the Deputy Attorney General herself. An unprecedented presence for a local murder case. Daniels sat rigid in the front row, his uniform pressed, his expression stormy. Next to him, Captain Mercer looked ashen, a man who hadn't slept in days. Judge Eleanor Harmon entered. The room instantly quieted. She adjusted her glasses as she settled in. Before she could speak, Reynolds stood. "Your Honor, the defense moves for immediate dismissal of all charges against my client." The district attorney stood as well. "Your Honor, in light of new evidence, the state withdraws all charges against the defendant." A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Daniels leaned forward in disbelief, his face flushing red. Judge Harmon peered over her glasses. "Would someone care to explain why I'm presiding over a murder case that apparently no longer exists?" Reynolds nodded toward a man in the back who approached the bench, showed the judge credentials that made her eyes widen slightly. After a brief, whispered conversation, Judge Harmon straightened. "This case is dismissed. The defendant is to be released immediately. All records sealed." She brought down her gavel with finality.